I'm sick. It's good. So at the end of every semester, I started doing this thing where I talk about like what I learned in film school that past semester, and I went into detail, and I'm doing that again here. I think this might be the last time I do a video like this, just because I'm starting to realize that learning about this stuff is only as useful as like what you personally get out of it, and that's what this is kind of becoming. It's just me. It's just what I got out of it. And a lot of the people that I had these classes with, I could tell felt like they weren't getting a lot out of it. So it all just comes down to how you feel about film school. I took director cinema and I took documentary production, and I got pretty significant things out of both of those classes. I think that they're both two very different kinds of classes. One is a more hands-on production-based kind of class, like some of the stuff I'd taken earlier, directing workshop, production one. And then director cinema was more like a film studies, film history, film theory kind of class. It's more like about watching movies and discussing them, kind of like that film technology class I took in my second or so semester of school. And actually, coincidentally enough, for director of cinema, my professor was the same professor that I had for that technology class. It had been a while since I'd seen him, and it had been a while since I had a class with him. And I think at the time, that class had shaped a lot of the way that I watch movies and the way that I talk about movies, about, directors' intentions and stuff. And that still rings true, but there's definitely a lot of other stuff I learned from this current class, and it's that it's not a perfect model. There were times that I found myself getting very frustrated during this class. And it wasn't like an academic kind of frustration, it was more of a generational kind of frustration. I found myself getting frustrated with the professor a lot and often. I've especially come around, once again, on contemporary films being valuable in their own way. And he's very anti-contemporary, so it's very difficult to kind of find a place where I can hear him out. Most of the kids in class weren't even humoring it, which might have been a good idea, but I was trying, and I wanted to make sure that I got something out of his lens to an extent. Like, I didn't want to go crazy with it or be like, oh,
this is exactly how you should watch movies.
Like I was about a year ago. But yeah, I learned a lot from director cinema, and I really enjoyed that class in particular. The best thing about classes like that is just the sheer amount of movies that you watch, because again, they're not movies I would often see. I want to start doing this thing where I have this document, I guess, where I write down all of the movies that I'm watching in these classes, and then I'll post a link to it in the description of this video, so if anybody wants to actually go and check out all these movies, they're free to. Because I think that the most valuable thing about film school is the fact that you're exposed to this stuff. You don't necessarily need film school, you just need the movies and, to read other people's lenses, but, without film school, typically you sometimes don't know where to start. And so, my jumping off point for that would be just to give you the movies and to give you the titles of the books that I read, which I'll also do. And you can just look into that stuff yourself, and, what you're interested in, you keep looking into. What you're not, you don't, and that'd be that. So yeah, director of cinema was pretty good. I do want to talk more about documentary production, though, because everything about this class lined up so perfectly with my lens and how I talk about stuff, right down to the professor, who is one of the coolest, chillest people I've ever had as a professor in college. Just this kind of rare form of love for art, generally, and for individuality. And obviously my professor was there to teach us the form and stuff, but he was way more interested in seeing our perspectives, which is why the assignments were so particularly good. One of the first assignments we got was just to make a quick little short film. It didn't even have to follow narrative structure or anything, but just, a short film that shows us for who we are. I forgot exactly how. I think he said it had to be like a minute at most or something like that. So this is what I made. And I liked doing stuff like that. It felt like personal, and it felt like something I could like get behind, and it felt kind of abstract, I guess. I don't actually think I ever even showed that one in class because I think I was sick that day. But so a lot of the work was like that, but the main two projects we had to do for the semester was for our midterm, we were supposed to do like a 3 to 5 minute doc about, you know, a character, meaning that we go out and we meet a person or we know a person and we, you know, find an interesting person, do an interview with them, and build a miniature documentary around that person.
He told her to put the television down. She took the television and she slammed it down on his foot, and she ran.
And so I decided that I was going to do a documentary about timeless heroes, because I was already going to make a video for Timeless Heroes on my channel, and I wasn't going to do an interview thing at first. And then I figured I'll do a whole little thing. And I finished my midterm project, and around the time I was working on the midterm, I was like, I think I want this to be my final project too, because for the final project, we just basically had to make a bigger documentary about something important to us. So I decided I was going to kind of inflate my miniature documentary into a longer project, and I ended up making a 20-minute long doc, which you guys might know as Timeless Heroes and A Meaningful Failure? It went through a couple titles, but that was the finished title. I owe a lot to that class and to that professor for how that video turned out, because it was initially just going to be another simple video essay, and I kind of like pushed myself to do other kinds of stuff. I was initially just going to do a 2 interview thing, one with Abby and one with Mark, and just have voiceover with me in the background. But then I kind of realized that I could actually incorporate myself into it, because when I did the interviews, I realized that since I was the person asking the questions, a lot of the stuff that was said on Abby and Mark's side of the interviews was just them talking to me. So they used the word you a lot. And that kind of breaks the documentary, I guess, interviewee rule, where I became reluctantly a part of the story. So I literally included myself in the story. And I kind of made a shot reverse shot thing where like I was in the same room as them, which that is the same room that it was shot, but all 3 of those parts were shot on different days. And it kind of thematically worked out, because there's a whole section of the video where I talk about how we kind of faked when people were all in the same room, and, you know, like I kind of all tied back to what that production was. And I'm really happy that that just turned out miraculously as well as it did. We also watched a couple movies in this class too, and they're definitely movies you guys should check out. A lot of them are on Netflix, so they're, you know, accessible and they're really interesting. We had a nice, cool conversation with a director that directed, I think, 1 or 2 of the docs that we watched in class. We had a special guest, which was another doc director whose film we also watched, which was also really cool. All the stuff I'm going to include links to and talk more about, and it's really, really interesting, cool stuff. Yeah, overall, this semester was really good, and I learned a lot, and I would talk more about it, but I'm feeling very sick, and I'm very tired. But I think this was a good video to cap the year with. Like, I like the idea of just, like, you know, going through what I learned this year. Let's go to next year. There's going to be one more video coming out on my main channel before the end of this year, and when that hits, it will be, it's not going to be a charge to Patreon, because it's just, I guess, a kind of recap of 2018 kind of video. I hope you guys had a great holiday season, and I'll probably see you guys pretty early in the year, because I have a couple things I want to put out, including a very long overdue announcement. So I will see y'all for that. Already being cryptic right at the end of 2018. Great. Bye, guys.